Well, good afternoon, everyone. I've got just about 12 o'clock. Tim, are you out there in cyberspace? Okay, let me just do a quick check to see. It looks like we do have some checks coming through, so you can hear me okay, it sounds like. Let me clear that and ask the question again. If I'm coming through your speakers loud and clear, please provide a green check for those of you that found the checkbox up there just above the participants list. Okay, it looks like Tim may or may not. And let me know if the volume's good too, so we can have some good communication. Since we have so few folks here to start off, why don't we go ahead and just try everybody's microphone out, then we might be able to see how well this sounds for future meetings and activities. So Jessica, would you mind pressing that talk button up on the upper left-hand corner and see how you sound?
Can you hear me? Can anybody hear me?
Yes, I could hear you just fine. I think I need to allow for more speakers at one time, I believe, so that we can try to talk. But yeah, once you're through talking, you can press the button off so that we don't get a lot of echo. So Ken, shall we try your microphone?
Okay, testing. Testing, 1, 2. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you just fine, Ken. For some reason I cannot speak until you've turned your microphone off, so I'll try to figure out a way to there we go. Set that. Okay, let's try Dr. Matthew over at Auburn. It looks like Matthew might be having a little trouble. Let's see, Ross, can we check your volume? Okay, let's see. Did we lose Tim? Okay, Ross doesn't have a microphone. Okay, all right, we're good to go. Tim, do you want to test your microphone?
Yeah, can you hear me?
You're good. And let's see, Sudipta, I don't know if you've got a mic or not with you, but it looks like we can have some decent conversation. I did want to say that there was another room set up as a backup in case this one didn't work, and it sounds like there's a few folks over there. So Leslie and Tom Gallagher are over there, and they're going to join us here hopefully in a minute. We had some issues with moderator rights and privileges and being able to run the webinar here, but I think we've got things straightened out. Tim, I had mentioned that if we didn't have too many more join us this morning, we could go ahead and have our E2O meeting right here this afternoon, but maybe what we'll do is go through the presentation briefly, and then we can move into some more pointed E2O discussions. Okay, before we get started with the presentation, I did want to just tell you a little bit about the software you're using. It looks like most of you have figured it out by just poking around there, but some of the more important features include the participant list. Hopefully everybody can see that. Sometimes that is hidden. So if it is hidden, you can click up there at the top. There's a option there for participants. There's also a chat window there at the bottom. You can ask questions of me and of others. Just a word of warning, though, that the moderators do see all the chat, so all that does come through for the moderators. We have polling options if we want to vote on items, and that is, again, up above the main room where most of you have found that. I'll clear it, but you have different options. This one is a yes, no, but we also have polling options for multiple choice as well. So there's a lot of great things, options in here. There's a raise your hand option. There's emoticons. You can let folks know if you're going to step away from the session. Overall, it's a pretty slick system, and just recently upgraded out of North Carolina State, so we do thank them for that. So with that, I will go ahead and get started, and first of all, welcome you all to our first internal IBIS webinar, part of a series designed to connect the dots among the team and between team members, get us a little more engaged on a academic level, talk about some of the new and innovative activities coming out of IBIS, maybe look at the landscape, the whole biofuels, bioenergy, biomass landscape a little bit, and plan to have one of these every month. So Tim appointed me as the guinea pig, and we'll see how it goes. So I'm going to go ahead and go through the presentation. Again, innovative delivery of science products for biofuels stakeholders in the Southeast. And before I do that, again, I want to remind everybody of the fantastic charrette we had in Knoxville last November. It was an opportunity to get most of the people together, and this is where the Extension Education and Outreach team began some of their planning efforts that continue on today. But overall, a great meeting up in Knoxville. So it looks like everybody on board is really familiar with the project, and I won't spend a lot of time on that. But again, we realize that this is a very, very complex, multi-year, multi-state, multi-agency, multi-million-dollar project, and many of us have never worked on such projects of such grand scale. So I think many of us are getting our plates cleared, are beginning to understand how to work with each other. I know that's definitely true within the E2O group. Lots of new faces to work with, and lots of evolving technologies and opportunities, as well as some pretty cutting-edge research and innovation. So having said that, we've got, again, a public-private partnership we're working closely with, over 48 scientists, graduate students, staff, and others, and just a big, big group to work with, and a large geographic areas as well. Now, the primary goals, it doesn't hurt to repeat those as often as we can, and these are probably branded on Tim's forearm there as he goes about his business promoting IBIS and coordinating things. But again, demonstrate real-world solutions to the barriers that limit biofuels production, create, validate, and use new metrics and tools that help with better decision-making to enable biomass to biofuels production, create communication tools and outreach programs that incite a well-trained workforce and give stakeholders the knowledge they need to support a biofuels industry. So I did have to laugh a little bit when I saw the incite the workforce phrase there. I hope we don't incite any riots, but hopefully we'll incite a lot of interest and excitement in this area. Again, those are the three primary IBIS goals. And when we were designing writing the proposal, the E2O, coined, I believe, by Dr. Kelly at NC State, seemed awfully similar to H2O, and we started to see some real similarities, especially with the uniqueness of this project, and that we do have a core group of E2O specialists, experts, but the idea with this project, especially given the fact that it was not fully funded, there were several things that we needed to take into account. One is that everybody on the IBIS team will have E2O responsibilities of one sort or another. That might be providing input, suggestions, research results, critiques, evaluations, or possibly even presenting information to various stakeholders. The idea is that we're not going to split up the research component, the education component, and the extension component. We're going to try to bring everybody along as much as we can using some of the new tools, technologies, and delivery mechanisms. So again, it's much like water in that, it's critical. I was told several times by the national program leaders that the extension component would be very critical for the success of the project. Some of this boots on the ground work needs to get out as quickly as possible. The information needs to be disseminated. We need to have real world solutions fairly quickly. And so one of the best ways to do that, obviously, is through the dissemination system that the land grants have. So much like water, it's critical to the life and sustainability of the project. Again, it's everywhere. We're hoping that E2O is something that everyone gets excited about and energized about. We know that we'll get word back if we're not doing enough of it. If things get a little too quiet, we'll definitely hear about that. And again, it's the nice thing about E2O, similar to H2O, is it's mixed with other components to make new or improved products. So we'll have some research results. We'll have some information from other projects that hopefully combined with technologies and with other products that I'll talk about in a minute will be more effective and have more value added in the long run. And again, not to reiterate too much, but everybody has it in them to do E2O work, whether they're research, education, or extension. So our specific extension outreach and education roles and goals and objectives include some of the obvious, which are to deliver the IBIS science to stakeholders. We are also very interested in looking at what else is going on across the landscape. Working closely with the other two Woody CAP projects out in Washington, particularly the extension components of the Washington State, Idaho group, as well as the University of Washington group, to monitor and work with what's coming out of their shops. And we also know that there are plenty of other research programs going on out there. So realizing that some of the IBIS science may take a few years to take root and get some good research results out there and peer reviewed, we can also take advantage of a lot of information that's out there and put it in the forms that can be readily used by various stakeholders. We also realize that this isn't a one-way mind dump from IBIS and from the providers of the research, but it is a two-way street, a multiple way street where we have lots of communication coming back and forth between our various stakeholders and our scientists. So another huge IBIS goal is to create that forum to establish as much communication as we can. I think that will shortcut a lot of the implementation and application of relevant science and technology. And also the E2O effort typically has been assigned utilization of things like the logic model, which the AFRI, USDA AFRI CAP grants require, where there are actual outcomes and outputs and short-term, long-term, medium-term kinds of outcomes, and measuring what those impacts are. So definitely quite a number of goals and objectives that we're responsible for. So we're going to turn things a little bit on our heads a little bit and look at not just what science we're producing, but look at who our stakeholders are and what their needs are. And I've just listed some of the key stakeholders, not in any particular order, but probably in the order that some of us traditionalists in extension have worked with. Again, farmers and forest landowners, the extension professionals on the IBSS team have years of experience working with them. I'll show you in a minute that we've already begun a lot of work with educating these groups in bioenergy and biomass. So we've got a good track record there. Professionals, again, lots to cover there. We've traditionally worked a lot with foresters and I don't have gut processor suppliers down there, but the logging community. We've worked with county agents in the past, obviously. So lots of professionals there to touch base with. As we go down, they get a little bit tougher to work with as far as a focused effort. But with this IBSS effort, we definitely need to take them into account. Community leaders, general public, new and emerging industry, industrial investors, youth, and then processors and suppliers and these kinds of folks. So we look at the stakeholders, we look at our general geographic region that we work with. Several of us work the 13 southern state region, so much of this information can easily be disseminated across the whole South, but our project area is pretty tightly organized around those 5 states in the Southeast, as well as Texas and California. So when we look at place-based educational opportunities, which typical stakeholders appreciate and rank that about the highest, we look at those specific states and probably regions within those states that will host workshops and field days and these kinds of things. So just a little bit on the background of some of the materials that have already been created that we've been encouraged by NEPA program leaders to update, to make relevant for IBSS are listed coming up here. And again, given the situation that we have with the funding being spread, fairly thinly across several states and several years, we've got to take advantage of products and programs that are already out there, and then update them and upgrade them to current conditions. So just briefly, I did want to mention some of these products that we've had success with in the past. Many of these are mostly from the producer's perspective, developing materials for forest owners and professional foresters, county agents. So we'll have to look at some of these other stakeholders as we move forward. But I did want to mention that a fairly recent project was completed a few years back, and some training materials, educational materials were developed out of the Southern Forest Research Partnership. And several of us were involved with this effort, Sustainable Forestry for Bioenergy and Bio-based Products. So all of this is actually on a web portal, which I'll provide you that address here in a few slides. But a lot of this information is a good starting point. We're looking at how we can update this and bring it into some different technology avenues as far as getting the information out. And again, those of you that are on board that are conducting mostly research for the IBSS project, we'd love to have some peer review of this and maybe get some of the more relevant research published in these products. A couple of other efforts. Actually, the University of Tennessee was home to the National Web-Based Learning Center for landowners. When that was funded, this information is still up and online. It's an interactive short course on biomass, and landowners can go through several modules based on that course that notebook I just mentioned in the previous slide. And then another aspect of that previous grant was an online encyclopedia, biomass.forestencyclopedia.net, and again an attempt to take those materials and place them in an online searchable encyclopedia. Again, this is one of the more popular sites even to this day, tens of thousands of hits per year. So lots of good information out there, and an opportunity to update this information. However, this effort is no longer funded at the level it needs to be, but another effort is e-extension, which I'll talk about in a minute. The University of Florida group created a Wood to Energy Ambassador program, primarily looking at solid wood opportunities with cogeneration and options for heating. But lots of good information in there as well that can be updated and brought into the IBIS, under the IBIS umbrella. So again, there's no shortage of material out there to utilize, to upgrade, to update, and the E2O team will be looking at that effort. And then again, I mentioned that Wood to Energy e-extension site. This is a new technology that the extension system has adopted as a whole across the country, with all the 1890 and 1862 institutions buying into this. It is a bit of an unfunded mandate in some respects, because there's a small staff that helps manage the e-extension site, but it's really it requires a lot of personal innovation to create these communities of practice, external funding options. Again, the NEFA grant requires an e-extension component. We've been very fortunate to have this one already up, and so all we need to do is add pages, add content, and instill the IBIS stamp on this, so to speak. So we're ahead of the game compared to some of the other caps, I believe, on the Wood to Energy community of practice. So really good stuff. It has opportunities for continuing education through Moodle. It has forums. It has YouTube video links. So it's got a great, it's a great extension avenue for our agents. It's incorporating a lot of social media activities. It's an opportunity really to keep up to date on calendars. So definitely a strong extension agent tool for us to utilize. And again, we're required to do that. So here's the portal I mentioned, and I didn't put the web address up there. My apologies. Do we have a hand up? We have a hand up. Okay, Tim, take it away.
Yep. Hi, Bill. I was just wondering, is there an opportunity in the e-extension site to incorporate herbaceous crops and ag residues?
That's an excellent question, Tim, and it reminds me I do need to stay on track with not just talking about what I know, which is the forestry and wood products arena, but we are an all-encompassing, ag and forestry effort. So good point. If this effort, if the Wood to Energy site is not the place, there more than likely is another place that we can link to heavily. So there's a lot of hyperlinking going on back and forth. There more than likely is another community of practice that looks at herbaceous energy options, and so we'll just have to look at that. And Matthew says, doesn't ag bioenergy have a different extension site? So more than likely they do. In fact, I know they do, Tim. We'll just have to make sure we get information added to that site too. Thank you for that point, though. Okay, so here's the website, the portal, forestbioenergy.net, with all that information out there. I did attempt to look briefly at some of the regional herbaceous biomass products out there. I didn't see anything offhand through some searching, but perhaps Ken Goddard and Mark Hall and some of the other extension folks on the IBIS team can direct me to some of the materials out there that we might be able to regionalize through an IBIS review process. So one of the things we agreed to as an extension group in Knoxville was to do this environmental scan as to what is out there, and we've got that pretty much well underway. We do need to add some of the the herbaceous materials up there as well, but it's a good start. Okay, any questions about past efforts before we move on? Okay, so I did mention this before, that these are some of the things that we definitely want to do as far as updating the materials that are already out there, regionalizing them, putting an IBIS stamp of approval, so to speak, on them, and then you'll see that this will be incorporated into some other efforts. So that's, again, looking at some of the IBIS specific information that might be coming out. We'll definitely be updating any kind of regional products that are out there. Okay, I did want to mention the Certified Biomass Procurement Specialist Program, and I see Ken is on board, and Ken, you might be able to talk better to this subject than I can, but I think it's really one of the exciting components of our project. Again, it's one of the probably most streamlined ways that we can get the best information out to the best people for us, via train the trainer, lots of good information, and I think people enjoy the certification process as far as becoming professionally certified, having that certificate that hangs on their wall, and being a little bit of a cut above the rest. So these individuals would work closely with foresters and farmers and landowners. They would go through one or more courses to be certified, and would have to look at continuing certification activities and these kinds of things. So great opportunities out there. We have to work out the logistics. I think the team plans to meet next week to look at this in a little more detail. But again, I think this is one of the selling points that we had, and again, a great way to get information out to our professionals. Just a few of the topics that Ken and his team came up with. You can read those, but a very in-depth, very detailed program. A couple of other items, just how we plan to do that through videos and webinars and testing systems, and again, developing a referral database so that these people, we can help market their certification and add value to this proposition. So a couple of other directions I wanted to mention. There was a lot of interest in the Community Readiness Index and activities surrounding that. The E2O team has to regroup a little bit because of the scientist in charge of that. Michael Wilcox has accepted a position at Purdue, so we're going to regroup on that front. The Fiber Analytics group out of NC State does a tremendous job working with clients to determine biomass supply opportunities and demand opportunities in a given regional area. We look to regionalize that and ensure that we incorporate agricultural biomass as well as forest biomass. Agent training, we'll be doing some of that, professional forestry training, again, through these certification programs and others. We'll continue with the farmer and forest owner education. We did start that several years ago, and we've got, again, a good track record there. I know Matthew Schmidt and others will continue to work with loggers as new information and technology comes out. And then we definitely want to expand more into the internet and using social media activities. And with that, just a real brief review of what's going on. We're working on updating and upgrading the website. That will be tied to our social media efforts. Leslie Bobby with Southern Regional Extension Forestry and Daniel Drummond has worked very hard to get work with Tim and Jessica to get this website moving ahead. We've still got a little more work to do with it, but that will be unveiled soon. And we do have a Facebook page up already, and I believe Jessica and Leslie and a few others are keeping that pretty current. I, in fact, learned quite a bit just by going on it the last few days. Just a great opportunity really to keep up real time with what's going on with IBSS. So kind of a communication effort, but also an educational effort as well. Pretty excited about the Facebook page and what's going on with that. Then here's just briefly, again, the state of North Carolina has been very aggressive with some of at least their woody-based bioenergy work, and we're going to capitalize on some of that work, and then again try to bring in the agricultural aspect of it as well. A couple of other things we're trying to do is determine who within our region has interests and concerns related to technology transfer and application on the ground. We've got a group of practitioners and state agency and federal folks that we're trying to get organized with. We've had one meeting so far to talk about who our stakeholders might be and what kinds of goals and objectives we might have. We know that there's a lot of efforts out there already. We don't want to be recreating, reinventing the wheel, but there seems to be a lack of coordination as far as some of the real practitioners. Lots going on, within each state, but I think when we look at multi-state regional activities and needs, this could add some real value to that. Forestry Webinars is a professional development website that we manage that we'll be able to promote IBSS research results and other activities with. That has a great following. There's usually 100 to 150 people that participate in that series, so we can get the word out through that action. And then mobile applications. We do have a half-time mobile application specialist working with us, and we just need to work with the IBSS research team to come up with some ideas as to which direction to go. But we're anxious to get started on that front. So I've talked long enough. I've talked about some of the directions we want to go. Some of the directions we are going, but I do want to open it up for some general discussion, questions and answers, and get some input from some of you all. Those that don't have a microphone, you can type them into the chat box there, and we can try to answer some of your questions. But we do want to get some information from the team so that we can ensure we're going in the right direction. Again, some of us are extension coordinators and have worked in this area for our entire careers, but we really rely on the research community to participate, in identifying problems and solutions and implementing some of the E2O activities. So with that, I'm going to see if we have any takers. Okay, Dr. Riles.
Bill, thanks. That was really helpful. One thing I wanted to mention on the way, kind of circling back to some of the certification efforts. We have continued to have conversations with the Council on Sustainable Biomass Production, and Bill, I know you were part of at least one of those. We then followed up with an IBSS presentation to the group in Washington a few months back. The Council on Sustainable Biomass Production is comprised of members from Department of Energy, Department of Ag, Forest Service, Weyerhaeuser, Chevron, National Wildlife Federation, Duke Power, on down the line. So a very credible group that has been working on certification standards for biomass and bioenergy. They recently released their ag standards, and I sent the link to everyone that you may want to have a look at. I'm optimistic that we'll be able to draw on them and to work more closely with them in the not too distant future. One point you'll notice with CSBP that only agricultural standards have been released. There was a sticking point, is a sticking point on the forestry side of the equation, mainly related around biological diversity and some of those more sensitive issues that has at least temporarily seen a bit of a breakdown. We're hopeful, obviously, that they get that resolved and start moving again, and we have the chance to work with CSBP to advance the standards that they've worked on for several years now. Thank you.
Tim, thanks for that update. I was talking with one of the NARA extension foresters yesterday just to see what they've been working on lately, and some of their activities will be developing best management practices for biomass production. And so it'll be interesting to see if some of those sticky points you mentioned might be resolved, if some of these BMPs might be integrated and incorporated into that. So that's good to know. I didn't put that website up. I think people can copy that down. It's there in the chat room, but I would encourage folks to look at that. And I know Tim, you're involved with that effort. Is that correct?
Well, we have hosted CSBP at UT. Much of their kind of I guess initial trials of the ag standards were conducted with support from the switchgrass effort that's been underway here, including the farmers in the program. So yes, we've had a pretty long standing relationship with them. Feel like it's a group that, given the mix, it will lend to very credible production standards or certification standards, and so a lot of good reasons, I think, to help more or less deploy and incorporate their work over the years.
Thank you, Tim. Sudipta has mentioned that she has a work that's looking at understanding values and perceptions of forest landowners in the Southeast as it relates to biomass production, and she would like some feedback from the extension team. And that's great. That's good news. I do know that some of that work has been done, and I hope maybe we can also do some of that with farmers as well. We have spent, several states, including North Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, have spent a few years working with forest landowners to understand biomass production and the bioenergy situation. And many landowners are interested, obviously, those especially that have commercially viable crops. They're still at that stage of, show me the money. I think they're still concerned about lack of markets and lack of local activity in this area. Again, there's a lot going on with wood pellets, and I think Dr. Schmidt can update us on that. But and there is enough activity going on in some of the other areas, I think, that will keep landowners interested. But talking with my colleagues out west, they're in a similar situation in that the landowners are looking for markets, and that's going to be pretty critical how we we educate this group of individuals. Dr. Riles?
Yeah, sorry, I don't mean to keep chiming in, but yeah, you're absolutely right, Bill. There's a lot of questions out there, especially at the landowner front. I think one of the most important things we can do is to continue to convey an optimistic message. I think there's little doubt if you look at Keyor, if you look at recent announcements in North Carolina with Chemtex, that this industry is coming, and we need folks to understand that. I know there's a lot of negative views, even at within our UT family, where there's been a major effort in bioenergy. But to remember that this is absolutely real, and it will happen, and to continue to convey that message is important, I think, for this team. But there are plenty of naysayers and detractors out there.
That's an excellent point, Tim. Did I see Ken's hand up? Ken, did you want to say a few things?
Okay. Thank you, Bill. You mentioned the planning sessions that we are fixing to take part in, as far as preparing videos and e-extension short takes as well. The videos would be from 1 to 2 hours for a classroom session on the systems of production, successful production that we've had in producing switchgrass. And I've been talking with Mark Hall, and we'll be having hopefully having videos on planting dates, depths, preparation of a planter, calibration, varieties, weed control, other equipment needs, no-till versus conventional, and so forth. And I guess the feedback that we need is whether we need the longer versions of videos, if they're approved, or the short e-extension types of segments, or both.
Yeah, you know that the response is always going to be both, Ken. So hopefully you can take the longer videos and shorten them up somehow. Any other comments or questions? Tim looks like he stepped away, but I would definitely have to agree with him as far as what kind of messages our E2O team has when we go out there. I think it's very important that we establish a way to kind of measure the perceptions and values as SEDIPTA is going to do with forest owners, but I think we should do that again with our county agents as well in this in the 4 or 5 states we're working in. Perhaps we can discuss working with the extension directors and the Ag and Natural Resource Program leaders to see if we can just kind of gauge the interest levels, knowledge levels of our county A&R agents on this topic area. I know we've had information sessions and landowner workshops and farmer workshops for probably close to 10 years or more, and it'd be interesting to see what stage many of these people are at with their perceptions related to biomass production and the bioenergy economy of the South. It might go a long way for when we develop our educational materials. So I'd like to hear people's thoughts on that. The question I would have, maybe even to Ken and Mark, who probably work closely with the county delivery system, whether they feel that agents have been over-surveyed and this would be a bad idea.
I think agent feedback is critical. I think communication is also critical to keep them informed as to progress.
Yeah, I just we just conducted a survey of agents on their opinions and beliefs about climate change. Had a great response rate and received some very valuable information that will help us with our programming efforts. But I know that many of our extension administrators are pretty protective of the agent's time and willingness to participate. But especially with these big grants like we have, I think it's really important to establish some communication with our boots on the ground. But we might warrant some more discussion on how best to do that. But short little surveys anymore are pretty effective ways, in my opinion. We have, again, it's mostly the E2O folks here on the call today, so some of the questions I had, as far as research and development outreach might not be relevant to ask of this group, but if there are any other ideas, I think, again, it looks like we're separating pretty equally, with some of us working on the certification program. Sudipta is doing some survey work. Leslie and I are getting the website and social media activities up and going, and some regional working groups going to kind of connect the dots amongst other organizations and groups. So I guess at this point, from the E2O perspective, are there some things we're missing? You think we're in pretty good shape as far as prioritizing our work? I know that Dr. Riles has expressed a great interest in better communications from IBSS, and maybe this group, maybe the E2O group, needs to tackle that as well. I'll throw that out too. Okay. Good point, Tim. Got to start somewhere, so this was a good start today. Yeah, please don't hesitate to email myself or Leslie or Tim or Jessica with comments or questions. We do have a small team, and we're slowly getting organized, but I think we're on the right track. So if there are no other closing comments, I'll go ahead and sign off here. And Jessica, did you have anything that you wanted to say before we signed off?
No, other than Bill, I'll get with you to get the presentation online, and also if anybody has any questions, just to shoot them my way, and I will do my best to get those to the appropriate folks.
Great. Tim says everybody needs to like the IBSS Facebook page. So, Leslie, how do they get to that Facebook page? Do you know? Is it easy to just log into Facebook on your personal account and search for IBSS? Or how do you recommend doing that? Or maybe just
it should just be facebook.com/IBSS or South or SE-IBSS. Let me just double check that.
Yeah, and I sent out the link with the.
It pops up right away if you search for IBSS, and you can like it. We need a few more fans.
Also, I sent out the link with the quarterly reports, but I'll go ahead and send that out again, so folks can log on and like us. And if anybody has any content they want to put up, just send it to me or Leslie, and we'll get it up ASAP.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for being a patient group of listeners and contributors, and look forward to having more of these conversations. Take care, everybody.